and we're back here with a very good friend of mine. His name is Moshe Chaimov, co-founder, right? Or founder? Co-founder? Either one. The Watch King of New York City. He's a person who I grew up with. I want to say how impactful his father is throughout the 80s and 90s in our community. He basically, him and Rabbi Yoshua basically brought Bukharians to Queens in the sense that they are the founders of our settlement here in Queens, migrating from not the Mayflower, but from American Airlines probably. All right. So I want to mention, first of all, thank you for Moshe for doing this. I was harassing him every day. No, are you coming? No, are you coming? But he said off the bat, Rabbi, I'm coming months ago. And I just want to say a little story about how impactful one gesture is that his father did. And I want to present it. When I was 7 years old in the shul, they gave out prayer books. And I was so excited to get this small title. It's called Sukkot David. And I was praying from that siddur my whole childhood and close to my teens till I got the 𝗪𝗪 siddur. And I will never forget that. That one gift you give a child, how it can be impactful for the rest of his life. And I always say when I see your father, by the way, I say, _Kol Rav, you should know, I am here because of you. You made me who I am. And honestly, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You're such a good person who's very impactful, very giving. I see it in your videos and I see it in your eyes, how you want to help young kids grow in the business, in the watch industry, in any industry. And I'm so glad that you're here, besides all the great players that are here as well. Our roster here is, I think, important to get this Bukharian Jewish Post, the Bukharian Post chat app in order. And again, Apple approved, Google Play approved. I'm going to post it on Facebook when we have the next break. And it's going to be a digital call center. And that's what I think we need. We need that ability to communicate, because it's not anymore you go to shul and you have that big rabbi giving you a gift that impacts your life anymore. Because right now, go try to get a kid to come to the synagogue, right? Or to any other religious, house of worship. It's near impossible right now, because it's like you're competing with society and the world out there. So I'm going to throw the first big question.
No, wait a minute. I'm going to throw something out first.
I can't stop that. Go ahead.
So of course, I know Adam. He's big on his show and the things that he does, and he's in my business. Okay. So, and a lot of these other people I've met, I feel very blessed to have an opportunity to meet you as part of the Bukharian community and as, a friend of Rabbi Benny's, who's a partner and friend of mine. But I got to tell you, when I turned over and I saw Moshe walking, I went, wow, that's the watch guy. Like, we know in Hollywood who you are, and in New York, the actors, that's Moshe, the watch guy. And I kept cool, because I was waiting for a rabbi to see. He goes, oh yeah, no, this is Moshe, the watch guy. I was like, I knew that was him. So we follow you a lot, bro. You're very famous.
They almost recruited me to Hollywood. You know that?
What's that?
I was really close to being
making that move.
Yeah. I mean,
well, you look Hollywood, bro. So don't matter. You're dressing the part.
You did, though, too, in a way, with that, like how you do your thing, and
starstruck. Oh,
I know who he was right away.
I know. I watch their podcast all the time. For me, it's like an honor to be here, especially when Benny was telling me that you guys are gonna come. I said, for sure. My grandma's 100th birthday is today. I didn't even go for you, Rabbi Benny.
Wow, I did actually. I didn't know it was today, but I knew it was 100 years old.
That's right. You make it to 200. Don't worry about it.
I want to say, so happy birthday to what's her name? Happy birthday to
my grandma.
Yeah.
Yael.
Happy birthday to 𝗂𝗪 𝗂𝗪, right?
Yeah,
So
she's 100. My parents
100 years old.
Moshe, we kind of got off track. Moshe, do everyone that does not know who you are exactly, introduce yourself to the family out there.
Sure.
Okay, my name is Moshe Chaimov, born and raised in Queens, New York. I'll be 39 in 3 weeks. I buy and sell high-end watches for a living, and we make interesting videos doing it. We started social media 2 years ago, full time. Main purpose is to give back to the younger generation who are lost in life. Because when I was younger, when I left, unfortunately, the tradition, I was lost. And what happened was, my way out and feeling accepted is I started gambling, and I got addicted to it really bad. And it got so bad that I lost everything in 2013. And what saved me was, of course, rehab and therapy, which is very, very important. I know people are embarrassed. People don't want to talk about it. People think it's a stigma. We all suffer from certain type of addiction. All of us, every human being. Just some people know how to control it. Some people don't. You know, when you go to the doctor, correct me if I'm wrong, right? You're sick. You have a throat ache. You're going to take medicine, right? Because your throat hurts. You're not embarrassed of it. Same thing. When you have an addiction, you're sick. You're sick. And it's okay. It's normal. There's help. Rehab is like going to a doctor. A therapist is like a doctor who helps you get better. But just when it says take the medicine twice a day, you go to the therapist and he tells you read this and do this. You have to follow the rules. You understand?
Was it challenging?
I'm sorry?
Was it challenging though?
Oh yeah, I lost 100 pounds in 6 months.
Wow.
They took everything from me. I ended up living in my dad's house. You know how that is. My dad is
100 pounds.
Yeah, I was 240 when I started gambling. I was 148 when I was done.
Wow. And you're a big guy. I mean, you're not a small dude. To lose 100 pounds.
Yeah, but I wasn't healthy.
Go down to 148.
I wasn't healthy. I looked sick. I was sick. Mentally, emotionally, physically, I was sick. Like, I mean, whoever never battled addiction doesn't know the feeling. Once I got out of therapy and I did outpatient rehab and I read the AA book and my goal is, I said, when I'm going to reach a platform, I'm try to help the younger generation who are lost to feel accepted without doing these drugs or alcohol or gambling or whatever the hell it is, the fast life. But we make an honest living and it's exciting. And I try to teach them that take your addictive personality and try to put it into something positive.
Would that be your drive for what you do on social media? Is that your drive?
That's my drive, is to help the younger generation. So these kids come in every single day. Listen, I can't go to a restaurant without, I'm sure these guys know, without being stopped for a picture. And I don't do nothing special, bro. I buy a watch, I sell it, I just put it on social media and we make content out of it.
All right.
But we make it exciting. Oh, let's flip $2,000 for the profit, up or down. Oh, so people are like, oh, but you flip coins for a living. That's gambling. It's not gambling because I'm flipping my profit. I'm not flipping 0 to 100,000 where I have the chance to have 0. I flip 1,000, 2,000 of my profit, which I'm willing to lose. But it helped a lot. Once a week, I give the kids an opportunity to come to my store. I give them watches. I tell them how much I paid for it, what I want to make, what they can make. And I call it Squid Game. They can go around 47th Street and sell it. They can make $300. They feel good. Okay, now I have.
It's an accomplishment.
Listen, we're not all made
Builds
for college,
confidence.
right?
Yeah.
Well,
It builds confidence.
it builds confidence. That's what I'm trying to do. Listen, not all of us went to college. I didn't go to college. I didn't finish high school. Okay, I didn't. So you don't have to have the college. I mean, I preach go to college, but some people are not meant for school. So I try to teach them that there's a way to make money and feel good about yourself without turning to the bad side. To the side of, yeah, it's cool for 5 minutes when you guys doing drugs or going out, partying, drinking, binge drinking, and gambling. Yeah, it's fun. You fit in. But when shit hits the fan, you can't control yourself. That's when it becomes horrible.
Wow.
You know? I mean...
And how many years has it been that you've been so sober? I mean,
I'll tell you what happened. What I was doing, I was borrowing money from people and gambling it away. And then it came to a point where there was bookies knocking on my father's house, looking for me. Where is he? Out the whole world, man. And for my dad as a rabbi, he was embarrassed. He's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, go seek help. And I would cry, like, I can't. I remember the story that stuck with me the most. I was in Atlantic City. I was playing baccarat, lost $28,000. This is 2012. Like, $28,000 then was not like today where each kid does crypto and all this. Back then, I came. So as a gambler, what do? Before you go in Atlantic City, you fill up gas, right? At least if you're broke, you have gas to get home for 2 hours. Fill up gas, go play, lose money. I come to pay for the parking. He's like, you're short 30 cents. I said, okay, I lost my money. They said, too bad. Go out and collect the money. I went like a beggar, like a schnorr. I asked for 30 cents. They gave it to me. The whole way home, I'm crying. I'm like, what the hell am I doing?
30 cents.
30 cents at the bag.
Crazy.
And I had my Rolex on my wrist, though, and I had the X5 then. I thought I was the shit, but I had no money. Next day I turned around and came back. That's when I knew I had a problem.
Wow. So it's been how long since?
10 years, 11 years. I relapsed in 2018. I was in Vegas. I was waiting for my plane ride. I had $22,000 in 20s. I was like, let me play roulette for an hour. I lost it all. I cried the whole flight home like, dude, you just did it. But you know what? They teach you how not to have self-pity. It happens. Listen, everybody falls. It's how you get up. And I never...
Wow.
I go to Vegas 5 times a year, every year. I don't even smell the table. And I pay for my room. I don't get a free limo. I don't get a free Rolls Royce coming. I take an Uber, Toyota carry me in the back, and it's fine. I'm happy that way.
Just to purge a little bit?
What?
Just to purge a little bit?
No, I don't. I gamble with my business. I buy a watch. You don't know tomorrow if the price is going to go up or down. That's my addiction. I'm addicted to work. I work all day, every day.
That's a healthy addiction.
Are you familiar with Daniel's story?
No, I'm not. I mean, I heard it. He was talking about it briefly.
This movie that they're playing in the background is a documentary I did about a kid, because since getting sober November 22nd, 2006, and I was, when people say to me, I can't buy you a drink, and I go, trust me, I earned my right to be sober. If you knew me back then, you'd understand. But I'm going to tell you 2 quick stories. One was about a lead singer of a very, very, very famous rock band, like as big as they get. And I remember he got busted in the Bronx. And I flew in to sit with him, and I said to him, why would the kind of money you have, you're staying at the Plaza, the Waldorf Astoria, wherever the hell you are right now, and would you go up at 3 o'clock in the morning to the Bronx to go cop? And he went, I don't think you understand. It's the subway, it's the danger, and I know you're not that buzz, all of it. It's a culture, that you're living in when you're under that addiction thing. But my favorite sobriety story, I was in Ireland. I was in Dublin, on the outskirts of Dublin. And I had to go home for Christmas and come back right away. And I was going to spend, the 27th through the 20th of January or whatever. And I've got this AA book, and I'm looking for the meeting. And I'm walking down this kind of dank, it's very cold. And there's a cul-de-sac at the end with a fountain and a little park in the middle of very small, size of this stage. And this old man sitting there, and I'm like this. I'm looking, and I hear, you're looking for the AA meeting, are you, laddie? So I look at him, and I said, yeah, I am. He says, hits the flask, puts it back in, and he goes, we shut them down a couple of days before Christmas. Gives everybody a reason to come back after New Year's. I said, I'm home. I am home. That's a brilliant theory. Let's drink all those 2 weeks and then just start it over again, and nobody ever gets a year's sobriety. But my mentality, I was ready to move to Ireland. I mean, I thought that was the greatest idea ever. Let me have 2 weeks so I can just tear it up. And I mean, how many times you're looking at the Knicks, you're looking at the Yankees, you look at whatever, a game, and you're like, well, it's not like going to a casino. It's not like I'm going to blow 22. I'll just put a couple grand down, make a little side money, make it nice. It's the same thing, man. I can't tell you how many times I was in the car and I felt the car turning. Like my hand, I was going towards the spot, and I thought, if I go there, I'm not going to come out. I was the guy that dug it in the hotel room for a week. Like I didn't come out, turn my phone off. I was awful. It was awful, awful stuff. I'm proud of you, bro. Proud of you.
Awesome.
You're about to have 20 years sobriety?
This will be 19 this year coming up.
Camera.
Jane's right there. Jane, how bad was it? My addiction.
We're going to bring her in.
We're bring
see
Jane
her,
up.
but we got-
We'll bring Jane up.
We have one of the Baldwin sisters, the infamous.
That's necessary.
Baldwin
She's there and be
sister.
On the next episode of Rabbi Benny.
You know what? You had to go through that to become who you are today, and to know how to help people. Only you know what that person in your rehab center is going through.
Yeah.
No rabbi, no priest, nobody can help. They can spiritually guide him, but you know the darkness, you know the demons he's battling, you know the depression he's going through, you know how his brain works, you know how to get to him.
Listen, this kid in this movie, his name was PJ. His mother was my brother Alex's first girlfriend in like 7th grade. That's how long I knew the family. She calls me up. I understand you help kids. I see it on Facebook. She said, PJ's in bad shape. I took him to first rehab, took him to the second rehab, put him in a 2-year program, put him in a 4-year. He graduated from a 4-year program sober. I mean, I was on an odyssey with this kid for like 12 years. Last one, I got to fly into North Carolina to Wilmington, meet the judge, and I went, he's just going to come back. I mean, let me take him again. If you put him in jail, he's facing 10 years. And the judge goes, go ahead, I'm going to make a deal with him. If he fails this time, he does the next sentence and the back 10. If he wants, so he had to stand in front of the judge and say whether he's willing to go for 2 years in treatment, 2 years. He goes in treatment 2 years. And the night I brought him in, I said, I want you to write a list of the 10 things you always wanted to do. He goes, you mean like a bucket list? I said, a bucket list. If you OD or you go to prison, you're never going to get to see it. So write the list. And his number 7 or 8 matched one of the ones I wrote in 2006, to run with the bulls in Pamplona, Spain. So I told him, you get 2 years sober and the old fat man will take you to run with the bulls. And he was like, I'm in. He gets 2 years sober. He's working on his 3rd year sober, meets a girl online. She pulls out the kit. He hits the needle, OD's first shot and dies. I lost him. 10 years with this kid, put him in 4 rehabs. It wasn't my plan. It wasn't what I thought. I thought I was going to use him to help me with the younger guys, and he's gone, one shot. So I went on a keto diet, lost 58 pounds, took his ashes, went to Pamplona, ran with the bulls, and spewed his ashes in the arena. And I documented the whole thing, interviewing his family. And
yeah, we're going to play that part.
Good for you.
Yes, play the end, which is the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, I did everything. And the addict sicko in myself, I thought, I let him down. What should I have done? But you know what? This has to come from you and God. I mean, you have to have that relationship and you have to do something. And in this community, when I talked more about it with Rabbi Benny, he said, I get, as the rabbi, one of the rabbis in this community, I get a lot of people telling me, I'm not going to name names, but that this is a problem here. And so we thought we'll start it this year. We'll start moving it around, and with people, we know Michael, one of our partners, and the other things that we do, and other members of this great community. We're going to do this every year. We're going to build this now. We're going to grow this. But our services to come in and counsel these kids, your nephews, your grandkids, and maybe we should hook up, I mean, it's something we could do, fly in once or twice a year to have talks, or have people have access to calling us. I'm willing to help in any way I can, because I just said tonight, the thing that was missing most for me was being of service. Serving God, whatever you believe, I don't care what you believe. Serving God and being helpful to others, the service model was the part that was missing for me. I thought because I was an actor, I thought because I was a Baldwin, all other nonsense, well, I don't have to go clean up at an AA meeting. I don't have to do coffee service or pull chairs out of it. Like, don't these people know who I am? Guess what? I kept relapsing until I got humble and realized I'm no different than anybody in that room. No different, because I can't get sober. I can't stop it. And then I finally got it.
And
I gotta
Rabbi Benny, just to mention, I think what we're doing tonight, it's a great, like you said yourself, Rabbi Benny, it's a case study. So
yeah,
doing this case study, if it's successful, we could replicate it and we could then sort of extrapolate it to other communities, to nationwide. And if it works, then
definitely
the proofs.
I think the future is the digital market.
Absolutely.
And the digital call center is what I think no one has done that.
Don't be embarrassed to talk to calls.
Yeah, once you're outside, they know you.
No, it's not about that. It's about kids are not calling, they're texting all the time.
People are scared.
Yeah, well, that's why we have anonymous. You can create an anonymous account, create your username, and just start talking without releasing your phone number, who you are per se, and then you can actually talk to someone who's available.
I think you have something going on. I mean, trust me, I know something about being anonymous. So
Right. All right. So I wanted to ask Michael. Michael, one second. Let me ask Michael the question, because I want to ask him this before. So just to reintroduce what Michael does, he runs the 30,000 Bukharian group chat. It's an amazing chat, and he always lets me, do whatever I want there. Not whatever I want, but I always call him, and I think he gets upset that I call him all the time, because he says, "Just do it already." You already have the right to do it. But my question is, because you do the anonymous, and I think you're like the wailing wall of the Bukharian community, where everybody is calling you. And I don't think it's just the Bukharian community. I think it's the Russian community. I think it's all communities are just contacting you and asking you anonymously certain resources or help. Like, what is your experience?
Rabbi, if you want someone to tell the truth, put a mask on him.
Oh, wow.
And he will. You want to know the real person, put a mask on him.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works. I think it's just the human psyche. And with the anonymous questions and people trying to come out anonymously, most of it is coming out, the real person is coming out anonymously. And what I think is going to succeed is because you allow them to be anonymous.
Right.
It's because you're letting them do it, and I think they'll follow you.
But I don't think that's the only thing. I think it's actually, with all due respect, is the fact that all you guys said that you're going to come and help. I think that was the big push. And I'll be honest with you, I never had that experience where I called so many and everybody said yes. Literally everybody said yes, we're there. From their busy schedules. Like Daniel, like, he's shooting movies every other day, right? Right. Yeah. Adam is doing, like, he was in VT and he still came, right, today. He was on a podcast and they went up to 12 o'clock. PBD, shout out to you, brother. Moshe was probably crazy busy, right, today, and he still came out. Like, he can be selling another 10 watches today. That's how big he is. And by the way, almost every watch person now starts doing content, I think, because of Moshe. I think he's leading the watch content industry, by the way. Side point. He says not to raise you. You are for sure, like, you're busy. Meyer's busy. Everyone's busy. All the individuals that we had in this podcast are extremely busy. And the fact that you guys put your hands into this, you know, I thank you very much. And
you're playing on the strong chord. We're all affiliated with somebody we all know who relapsed or who went through an ordeal. Right. Some of us can personally relate.
Right.
Would you take?
I want to give you a quick shout out, Benny, because I'm here because of you. And I met a bunch of your partners. I met a bunch of your friends. But when Benny calls and says, I want to do something, I say, how can I help you? And, you know, relationships are a big thing in this business. You know how it is in Hollywood. You know how it is in the jewelry business, in the Bukhari community business. Relationships matter. So what you're building is amazing.
Appreciate it.
But it starts with, hey, how you doing? And when Benny calls and says, hey, how you doing? You know, how can I help that?
How you doing?
How you doing,
Benny? But thank you for having us, Rabbi Benny.
Always.
Would you do it again if you had to go through your addiction all over again? Do you? Let me ask you a question. Do you regret what you did, or did it help you become what you became?
Yeah, my journey was my journey, and it was a spiritual journey. You know, I mean, I could tell. You know, it's interesting. I'll give you a parallel. I was approached again. Someone heard a story, and it was. Let's call the guy's name Charlie. He likes watches. He's from Hollywood. Okay. So Charlie and I are in Vegas, and so this story got out. Some person that was in the room told the story, and I got approached by this guy who writes books. He said, bro, I'd love to spend like just a day with you and hear the 5 best stories. So I spent the day with him, and I told him my 5 best stories. And he went, do you realize that you would sell 20 million, 30 million copies if you wrote a book? And I went, let me ask you a question. If I told the story and I didn't say who the people's names were, do you think the book would be a great selling book? Or do you think I have to name the Hollywood celebrities that are in that room with me? He goes, no, you'd have to name the Hollywood celebrities. I went, well, that's why I haven't written the book. And so the same thing, why would I want to be responsible for outing somebody for what they did when we already know a lot of them were in trouble anyway? It's not a big surprise. But to go into the details of what it was like in that room and some of the weird stuff I saw that I did not participate in, but I saw, yeah, it wouldn't be the same book. Same thing here. I never would have got to God and got to be. I can look right now and I see my sister and she's with her son, one of her 2 sons. I love my sister and I love her husband. I've always been one of the closer siblings to him. But those boys, I missed probably about, 10 to 15 years of their lives while I was out of my addiction. Like, I don't even remember even seeing them from the time they were, 2 till they were 15. I mean, that they were non-existent in my life. I never went to my sister's house. I didn't see her or talk to her much. I didn't mean I didn't love my sister, but I was out there, just really lost in my addiction.
We love you, Jane.
Yeah, we love Jane. So in order for me to get to the place that I am now and to know that service model and to know, listen, this man sitting to my right, he's one of the mad scientists in my life. You know what I mean? Like he came after me, telling me he's got this thing he's going to do. It's called iShook, and it's a self-sustaining entertainment platform with this. And he was so passionate about it. I said, man, I want to be around guys like that. I want to be around people that love, you know what I mean? I had a guy one time, his name was Pierre Plante. Pierre Plante was a first AD, and the first movie I ever directed was up in French-speaking Canada, in 𝗵𝗵𝗃. So I'm up in Quebec, and this guy's the last guy, and I haven't found someone. You got to really gel with your first AD when you're directing. You got to be able to look at each other and understand what I'm saying. And this guy, they all speak French, and they act like they don't speak English when they don't want to communicate with Americans, by the way. So he comes in, he's got this giant nose and this bozo hairdo. He's all disheveled, and I said, Pierre, I don't see a resume. He goes, Daniel, at the end of the day, I am the resume, yes? As soon as he said it, I could see he was a poet. He was a poet. And I sat up on my chair a little more, and I looked around. Okay, Pierre, well, tell me a little bit about what are you up to now? I see I'm told that you worked on a number of movies. But he goes, oh, yes, Daniel and I have worked on but right now I am buying my parents' house, the house that I grew up in. I said, you're buying your parents' house? He said, yes. I said, you must really like that house. Do you want to? He's like 50. I go, you want to go back to? He goes, oh, no, Daniel, I do not care about the house. I buy the house because of the tree. And I said, because of a tree? Yes, Daniel, the oak tree in my backyard is the first place I have a drink of wine, the first place I make love to a woman. I must have the tree. I went, you're hired. Be to work at 9 o'clock in the morning. I walked out of the room. I walked out because this guy understood it. He got it. He's going to buy a house because of the tree in his backyard that he'll never be, like there's no other trees in the world? No, he had to have that tree.
Wow.
That's this guy.
Appreciate that.
That's this guy.
But that beard.
There's been, I'll tell you now, and this is more to Mike, who is in a way one of our leaders and the most substantial investor in the things that we're doing. I have seen people ask him and offer him ways to cut corners and go out. And I've seen you say no.
Yes.
I've seen you say, no, I can't do that. I've seen him say no to things where it would be really tempting because of the money in it. And I see him go, yeah, no, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'm not interested, but thank you. And be very polite about it. And I go, man, he's really going to stick to his guns. He's going to do this straight up, the right way to do it, and grow it right. And you know what? I want to be around people like that. I want to do stuff with people like that have that kind of passion. That's why I'm here.
Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate much respect.
Yeah, bro.
That's integrity.
Benny's the fish that swims against the current. That's I know it. Oh, definitely against the current. And he gets to where he wants to go.
Fisherman trying to fish it. That's it, though. Right there.
Danny's the one.
We spoke a bit off stage about the timetable for rehab. How the sort of the mainstream is 28 days. You're in, you're out, and there's a high chance of you sort of bouncing back. Can you sort of like just elaborate for our viewers? Basically, like what is the sort of recommended table or time?
Yeah, so a lot of people don't realize that the 28 to 30 days in rehab model was set up around the United States military. The longest they were allowed to get Air Force pilots who were drinking out of off station and away from work as a break from the military was 28 days. So they built the rehab model around those 28 days because that was how they could try to sober them up quick, try to get them sober and put them back in those very expensive jets, those fighter planes. So the 28-day rehab model started because of the military. We've learned that less than 3% of those people who stay in rehab for 30 days stay sober for a year. At 3 months, it goes to 15%. At 6 months, it goes to 45%. Now, remember something. Only 45% of the people that stay in rehab for 6 months get 1 year. 6 of the months, they're already in rehab. So for only 6 more months, more than half of them fail to stay sober on their own. But at 1 year of continuous care, 95% of those people that go in for 1 year get multiple years of sobriety, 3 years or more. So something happens in the neurons or whatever it is in your body after between 6 months and 12 months that recycles, that allows you to get, and I believe it's the sober living aspect of it. You have to do a year. It's the only way, if you have a really bad addiction problem, you're going to stay sober for the rest of your life. It's the only way. And sometimes it takes, multiple tries to do that. But in less than a year in recovery, I don't give you much of a chance.
Chances of you keep taking drugs are very high. And I think Daniel knows it more than anybody else.
Well, what you're talking about is we call in the rehab business, the behavioral basket. And so if you come in and every week on Monday, Tuesday, each day, on average, you do pretty close to the same thing for a majority of the day. If you work, whatever you do. For an addict, when you start taking out that behavioral basket, things that they do, you better replace that time with something for them to do that's positive, or they have an empty behavioral basket or partially empty. And when they get time on their own early in sobriety, it's the worst possible thing that could happen.
Devil's playground.
They'll go right back to using again, or right back whatever they're doing.
That's the scary part. So you got to take that boredom away, but how? But if you tell a kid, hey, this is what you need to do, you think the kid's going to do it?
That's why we do what we do. We show them that there's something to do. Let me ask you a question. When you kept yourself busy, right? You never thought about drinking or whatever. Always when you're bored or were done to do, right? Your mind started wandering about that amazing feeling you had.
Yeah.
When you were, right?
But that's that service model I was talking about. Right. So suddenly I put myself on a list to drive guys to meeting. I put myself on a list to help after the meeting. I went into an old folks home. I went into the hospital at Cedars-Sinai, and I was doing puppet shows for the kids that had cancer. And I just kept myself busy. I went for a good year where I worked. My rule was I wouldn't work more than a couple of days. So my agent would call me up and go, "I got 3 weeks on this movie." They're gonna, no, that's too long. So I also made it my priority. I was actually really scared that I wasn't going to live. I mean, it got that bad, my addiction. Yeah, it was really bad. So I remember, I'll tell you the story. I was in a hotel that was all the way down in Marina Del Rey in LA. And I liked this hotel because it was so far down by the yacht club. There was no cops, there was no people, because I would get really paranoid. I was using cocaine. And so it was one of these clocks that had the pads that flipped over, the little, every minute it looked like a square chip that would flip over with the number on it. So I did some, and so then I went, and my chest got really tight, and my arm got very, very painful down my arm, and I realized left arm, chest, cardiac arrest. So smart enough to know that. So what did I do? I sat there and I laid on the bed, and I went, God, please don't let me die. Don't let my kids find out I'm dead in this hotel room. So I sat there, and I watched the clock for 30 minutes, knowing that 30 minutes was long enough so I could do another hit and get high again. And I sat there for hours, and I waited I thought I was being responsible by waiting 30 minutes to do another hit of cocaine and then feel my chest tighten up again. I was wincing like this, and my arm getting really painful. And I did that for 10 hours. And finally I ran out. And instead of calling the guy, I called this rehab, and the guy that owned the rehab answered the phone. His name is Greg Hanley. And he said, "Where are you?" And I said, "Listen, man, I don't even know if my insurance will cover this anymore. And I'm not sure how much." He goes, "Don't worry about that. Just tell me where you are and I'll come get you." And so he came and picked me up himself. He took me to rehab, and I've been sober since. So yeah, but it was that bad. I was pre-cardiac arrest and still using. I always wondered what would happen if I had had a whole bunch more that night. Would I have made it?
Is that like a suicidal thing? Using it and using it and using it.
I don't know. I'll say this. I tried to figure it out, many times back early on. And then what I resolved was I don't care. I'm an addict. I can never do it again.
Or this, you'll have a heart attack and die, but you're willing to wait a half hour to string it out just long enough. That sort of speaks to the heart of what the hell we're even talking about with this addiction.
Yeah. Listen, man, I was in a house down in Compton in a really bad area. And I'm sitting in the living room with a guy that I used to buy the drugs from. And these other guys walked in, and they looked like trouble. They were looking around, and they walked, and they called him into the back, and I heard pop, 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 pop. and people came running out. I heard the guns going off, and they ran out. All the people and were empty. I sat there because he hadn't bring my stuff yet. I gave him the money. And I sat there on the couch, and people were running out. I walked back there, and he had been hitting the arm, and I go, he goes, man, don't call 911, don't call the cops or anything. Call my brother. I go, where's my stuff? I said, give me the stuff first. I didn't run with bullets going off.
Man with a plan, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the sickness of how far you'll go when the drug runs your life.
That's a blessing how far you'll go when you use it
for sure.
like you do it right now.
One way or another. Was I suicidal? No. Did I have a death wish, or was I afraid of death? No, not that much.
And what was your drug of choice?
Cocaine.
Yeah, it's a hell of a drug.
Drugs. I was
Can we still call it a drug?
I was scared of drugs. I was scared to overdose. So I'm a control freak. So I don't do marijuana because I would lose control. So I was always scared to do drugs. I was addicted, but it was to gambling and a little bit of alcohol, but drugs never, because I was scared that if something happened.
Imagine a drug that would allow you to gamble for 36 straight hours.
𝗵𝗲𝗪.
Thank God. And I think that was
Exactly. Hey, Rabbi.
story is crazy.
Well, how long? Where's the rabbi?
Closing deals as we speak.
Yeah, the rabbi. Michael, I want to go back to what you were mentioning about the Bukhari and the competition.
Yeah.
Because I asked earlier who are the biggest victims of these overdoses, and it's usually young men, right?
Men.
In the Bukharian community.
Yeah.
And what I've learned interviewing some of the most famous, powerful, influential people in the world is that, especially as a man, it's going to take time to have success, to reach your goals, to become who you're inevitably going to become. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen certainly in your 20s. Why don't young men fully grasp that? Why? And you said it's a competition. It's going to... You never see, life's a marathon, you know, they say, just because you're winning the first sprint doesn't mean that you're winning in life.
Absolutely. But it's that chase. It's that chase that we're all involved in. We're all chasing. Once you become a young adult, it's in your blood. It's this human nature of you to chase. It's in you. It's that human nature that makes you want to, you know, you get stuff. You get it and you bring it. Those kids that already realize that know what they want early on in life, yes, of course they are. They tend to be more successful than their peers. But then you have other kids that look up to them.
Where's he going to come on?
Thinking they could be as successful as them in the shorter amount of time just because they think they're smarter. It doesn't happen with the first one, with the first try or the second try. And then what happens? They lose interest in it. And then they start to find ways to spiral down. Exactly. To spiral down. They tell themselves, oh, you know what? I wasn't successful because of this. That didn't happen to me because of that. Wow. And it keeps down and down and down until that guy next to him who says, why are you feeling depressed? Yeah, right here. Hit this. Forget about it. Hit it. Snort it. If you're man enough, you're going to have this chill. Just put it in your vein. You're going to love it. It takes 3 times for you to be addicted for the rest of your life. 3 on your 3rd try, you're done with it. And then with this whole bad...
What we need to do is teach these kids not to feel their peer pressure.
You can't teach them.
You could. That's what I'm trying to.
You can't teach them. They can't. Look, I'm talking to you as
people richer than me, bigger in the jewelry business than me. But I always stay in my lane. I tell my team, guys, there's going to be somebody better looking than you, richer than you, more successful than you. Doesn't matter. Every day we wake up, we're alive, we're healthy. There's a race to the top, right? It's a marathon, like you said. Today we're behind. Tomorrow we'll be ahead. If people understand that, you teach the youth this thing. Like I teach my son all the time. Bro, one day at a time. You can't, Rome wasn't built in one day.
Absolutely.
I understand the competition because one builds a big house, the other one builds a bigger house. Guys,
all these kids, they're looking up to you, Moshe. They want to be as successful as you. They look, they see, they scroll the Instagram and they see Moshe. They want to be like Moshe.
That's the problem with social media.
But they want to be like Moshe tomorrow. Moshe didn't become Moshe within a day, right? But they
16
can't
years
see that.
of hell.
They see you and they want to be you within that second. I want to be like him. I think if I'm going to go to 47th and flip few watches with that coin, I'll be just like him. I'll drive that Rari. I'll have that AP on my wrist in no time. When they don't get it the next week, guess what happens to them? They feel upset. They feel like
The way we spoil our
they
kids
didn't
also,
do
right?
it. They
The way we
suck.
spoil our kids also, right? You spoil your kids, you get them in a car at
you spoil
17,
them.
right? And today kids 18-year-old driving M3s, M4s, M5. I mean, what else does he have to? What do we look forward to every day, right? To make a living, once you're ready, like, unfortunately, why that happen a lot in Hollywood? Because they have nothing to look forward to anymore. They're successful, they're famous, they have all the money in the world, they get any girl they want. Excuse the people here, right? So what's now, right? What's next? So they turn to
This
it's
is worse than any drug,
Absolutely.
any alcohol. It is no concern. So much so that entire other countries have launched projects and plots against us on how to capitalize. Do you know that if you go to China and you ask the average kid on TikTok what they want to be, their first two answers are an astronaut,
Engineer,
or a doctor.
doctor,
Do you know what the number one answer in the U.S. is?
influencer.
An influencer.
Influencing what?
They want to be an influencer.
Yeah.
And we're so moved by this thing.
way out.
I had a parent come up to me and say to me, is it true about the phone with your kids? That early on when they were younger, they're 17, 18, and I said, but when they were younger, I said, yep, they get off the bus on Friday and they can go in the drawer in the kitchen and take the phone out Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday at 6 o'clock, the phone goes back in the drawer and they don't see it all week long.
Wow,
That's the rule. And they went, how do you, I went, because I turn the phone off and that's it then. Then they're not going in a locked drawer.
Until what age?
I let them have freedom on the phone at about 14, which in a way I regret. I really do. But my son now, my wife is much younger than me. We have a young son. He'll probably never see a phone until he's in high school. I mean, it's that bad an influence on them.
For today's you got to explain to him.
I don't care.
You got to explain to him, though, right?
I have the rapid walkie-talkies.
It's hard.
Everyone has.
Guys,
It seems pretty reasonable for today's age. I mean, I see kids that are they're 7 years old. They're in my son's first grade class. They have phones already. So 14 is actually, I give you props. I had my phone, but it was a flip phone at 14. I was begging my dad to get that. But I mean, you're handing a child today a iPhone, a smartphone that has capabilities to do whatever you want at such an early age. I think the further you push it down the line, high school, whatever, the better you're off. The better. I mean, I can even tell you, I have relatives that he's a doctor, raises kids basically with no phones, no phone policy up until high school. And the kids actually they're social beings that you speak to them, they actually interact with you. They understand, they listen to you, they're present. Versus some kids I see that are just zombies. They're walking around, all they know is their phone, and they have no social skills. They can't even communicate, and it feels as if you're talking to a wall.
It's their safe space.
Yeah,
They get away with it. They just jump into that phone and they want to stay in it because they have people that listen to them and they could actually talk to.
So they can't put them on.
That's the scariest part, is that because they don't talk to you. They talk to that stranger online.
Plug it through, yeah.
And you don't know who it is. With boys, it's one thing. With girls, it's even worse. That's the scariest. But you can't hide them.
Right?
You can't. It's impossible to hide them from it. What you can do is you show them that, hey, you know what? There is life besides that phone as well. You spend actual time with them.
right.
Not telling them what
You got to be present.
Exactly. You give them, you take that time away from the phone and you just put it on you and you say, hey, come help me with this. I'll show you this. I'll show you that. Come experience something with me, something that you haven't experienced before. But make them interested
Never call again.
in something else. That's
Absolutely.
it. This is our job as a parent.
Rabbi Benny, I think this would be a perfect segue to do like an advertisement. Say keep Shabbat, whether you're the Saturday people or the Sunday people. You have one day a week where your phone's off.
By the way,
I don't keep Shabbat.
Eric Weinstein had a podcast. Shout out to Eric Weinstein. He said the biggest power that we Jews have is Shabbat, where we can invite others to our Sabbath table to understand what it means to take off a day, sit with the family, whether it's Saturday, Sunday, Friday, whatever religion you are, it doesn't matter. Just close off all contact with socials, with technology, and sit as a family. And maybe by sitting as a family, we won't have so many differences and so many, like tribal warfare with each other. Listen, we're going to have to close it and take a break right now. Everybody, thank you. And we're going to have the next segment right away within 5 minutes. Thank you.